toasting, joking too. Sipping and roasting is what we do. Light 'em up, drink 'em down. Whiskey and cigars all around. Cheers, y'all.
Well. That sounds like a party. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome yourselves to this fine radio program, podcast, and video extravaganza known worldwide as the world-famous Smoking and Toasting. We are so glad to have you here for show number 307. That's 307. So when you
divided by 3, that's halfway to 330.
Yes, thank you for doing the math for me. I appreciate that.
Got this.
Today we're talking Yuletide wines with our very favorite wine person and resident Smoking and Toasting wine expert, Mr. Marc Borel. Welcome back to the show,
Hi
Mark.
there. Thank you for having me.
It's always fun when you're here. And
I bring booze.
That's only partially because you bring the wine. It's also just fun. It's fun having you. So
Thank you.
So yeah, we're going to talk wines for the holidays, which is always a good. Now we kind of did wines for the holidays back before Thanksgiving,
But that was a different holiday.
But that's a different holiday.
That doesn't mean that the stores weren't already doing Christmas right before Thanksgiving, because I think Christmas started right after Halloween this year.
Christmas started right
It's
after
like July
Arbor Day.
31st or somewhere around
Started
there.
right after Arbor Day, I think is when it started. Yeah, but it's that's a pet peeve. But yes,
Summer
it does
solstice
start.
Christmas sales.
Exactly. It does start too early, but now we're actually like into it. Now we're really into
The thick
what
of
actually
it, yeah.
should be considered the Christmas and
season.
Hanukkah and holiday season. So now the parties are happening. Now it's time to pick your wines and what you're going to not only serve if you're hosting a party, what you might want to take to a party as a gift, and of course what you might want to serve for your holiday meals if you're doing holiday meals. So
That's right. I brought some fun things today.
okay, good. And I understand you brought bubbles, which I always get excited
Well,
about.
you know, when it
bubbles.
got to the point now where now I can't not bring bubbles
Kind of
see.
expect it.
to you. Yeah, this is
It's just something
it has
we,
to happen.
It's just something we do. So it's
If you didn't bring bubbles, I'd be like, who are you and what have you done with the real Mark?
Now this is I'm going to give you a little teaser. The bubbles that I brought today are wildly different than anything I've ever brought.
I love that.
Today.
okay. I love it. Yeah.
So
It's
it'll be fun. We'll have some fun.
Well,
with
I tell you, the ones you brought last time were amazing.
Yeah,
so,
those were good.
So those were really good. So we do want to say special thanks to our guests from last week's show, Maison Ferrand and Plantation Rum representative Greg Doxakis,
that guy.
known to us as Dox.
He's so
and,
fun.
And then Adrienne Stoner, who actually may have known more about rum than Dox did.
I think so.
Which surprised me because I didn't think
so.
anybody knew
She was
more
like
about
on top of it.
Yeah, she really was. But it's always fun having Docs on the show, and I happen to notice the YouTube posting for last week's show, and of course Adam and the Sky, our producer, always picks an image to be the still image, right? When you and in this particular one, it's Docs with his finger up in the air, like I am making a point. Everyone, pay attention. I am Docs. Anyway, it was a very fun show. We. I think we gave new meaning to the phrase "the show has gone off the rails." Yeah, I think we did it so many
not
times.
only was it long because we just he's so fun,
Yeah.
so interesting, and she was so fun and interesting that we just kept going. It was a lot.
There's
of fun.
almost no topic you could detour into that he didn't have something to offer.
I think
so.
Off the Rails describes my last meeting with Doc. So
I
yeah.
think 100%. So, Mark, it is having Docs one week and you the next week. It just makes me feel like the show's on a roll. You know what I mean?
This is good stuff.
It's a very, very good thing. And we're looking forward to tasting the wine. We'll also be tasting some tequila today. And I've not had, Ian, you're going to not believe this, but let me get this tequila bottle.
That's tequila?
Well, this is tequila. It's a tequila añejo. And what do you notice about it right away that's unusual for a tequila that I bring in?
It's very strange. It's like this whole top part has not been tampered with.
Right. It's actually enclosed, and the safety standards, safety measures have not been taken.
The safety in this structure right now is breaking down.
That's
because
absolutely right. So
generally speaking, you peel the plastic off so no one can get a plastic cut, and then
Right.
you clear the top of the bottle of a little bit of. You pour off a little bit to make sure that there's less spills and things
Exactly.
like that.
So that won't be happening today. So I'm going to just urge you to proceed with a great deal of caution.
Even though I was born in the 70s, and that was way before safety was invented, I I still managed to practice it somewhat, and I do have glasses, so I think I'm the one to open this.
Oh yeah, it would help
that
protect
helps
anything from
protect
getting
the
into
eyes.
All
Yes.
right, so we'll look forward to that when we get to tequila time. It is a tequila called El Mayor, and it's their Tequila Anejo. So
It looks beautiful.
it does look very
But
nice.
you know, I saw the bottle just kind of from the side. It looks very much like a bourbon bottle to me.
Yeah, it does. In fact, that was the first thing I thought of when I saw the bottle. Is it looked very
Usually
very
when I see
bourbon-like.
tequila, it's more round or very
squared or
yeah.
triangular.
There's a rum that's made in Colombia that is in a bottle that's very similar to that.
Yeah, I think this may be a fairly standard shape for a spirit bottle. But yeah, it's manageable. It did, and it also, what I liked about it when I picked this one just very randomly at my local Specs is that it wasn't trying too hard to be, because there's some of them now that the tequilas, they're just trying so hard to get noticed on the shelf.
Every catchphrase,
right,
bright color.
or it's in some sort of ceramic, gun or something, like something they're trying to do to stand out on the shelf. And this was just like,
Are you trying to
sitting
tell
here-
me that the tequila that's poured into a rifle
Yeah.
for your pleasure is not delicious?
I'm just saying they're going a little further.
So
trying to get your
I
attention.
need to bring it on the show at one point in time. My brother, as a joke, bought me a tequila that actually came in a 750 millimeter flask.
That's kind of cool.
I did open it at some point in time, and my initial response was, "It's not as bad as I thought I was."
Okay, great.
But and next time we need to bring something that's questionable on the show, I can bring that.
You seem to be the guy that brings the questionable things.
I'm going to keep the flask though, because the
that's
flask
your
is
role.
a 750 millimeter flask.
That's your role. If it's
That
Malort,
comes in handy.
if it's Malort, you bring it.
That's an easy way to pack it. Right?
If it's that disgusting mead that I wouldn't even taste, you're the guy that brings it.
that smelled so bad.
Ian brought a mead. I'm not kidding. It was a mead that comes in a can. And when he opened the can and poured it into a cup, and he passed it to me, it was, and I'll try anything, right?
It was so hard not to react when I just
you
opened it. I was like,
I've had, all kinds of things. I've had Malort, if we were all on a dare to drink Malort, I'd try it again, right? I couldn't bring myself to take a sip. It was that bad.
it was, yeah.
Was it the aroma or the viscosity?
Oh, it was everything about it. The aroma was horrendous.
Yeah. But everything about
And
it, you're right.
in my defense, I knew that it was that bad because I had opened one before. I bought a 4-pack of it because it looked interesting. It was called Black
it did look
Cherry
interesting,
Mead.
yeah.
And there are some meads that I think are actually pretty good. There's one, I'll have to remember the name of it, but it's actually a mixture of mead and wine with black currant in it, and this is amazing. As weird as that sounds, it's really good.
Okay.
But okay,
He's
that's a
gonna
challenge.
take-
I'm going to
he's gonna
find
take
it.
your word for it, I think.
I'm going to find it, and you'll be like, I
This
can't believe
one- this one,
was
however,
not
was
that,
not
though.
amazing.
When the first
Oh, it
ti-
was amazing,
The
but
first
not in
one
that
I
way.
opened, and I poured it in a glass, and I was like, well, it has an interesting fragrance. And I took a sip, and I was like, ooh. So that one went away.
And so immediately he thought, I have to take this into Cruise and
well,
make him
no,
taste it.
I
immediately
think I
I
might
took
be
it.
out of town on that day.
Immediately, I took it into my my brew club, and I had them have it as a taster.
Yeah, and had to go over there.
Oh yeah, man, it went about the same way. Then I brought one
Rough.
can in here, and I'm not sure what happened to the other can. There was 4 of them total, so I don't know.
Yeah, well, maybe by the grace of
But
some
that's
unknown
fun.
force, it has been removed from your refrigerator.
Hey,
so-
man, I've brought other interesting things like that rum.
Sure. Oh, yeah, that was awful too. See, the more awful something is that we have on the show, the more
Remember,
likely
I
it is that
supplied
Ian
I
brought
supplied the show with malt liquor that time too.
it. And I rest my case. Thank you.
I
Good
don't,
night.
Yeah, I don't think you're doing yourself any favors here.
Should not be my own lawyer.
Also,
I should not represent myself. Is that what you're saying?
Also coming up on the show today, we have the countdown has begun. Every year end at about this time, Cigar Aficionado begins to release their top cigars of the year. And as of the time we're recording this show, numbers 10, 9, and 8 have been revealed. So we'll tell you what those are. So the way they do it is they do 10, 9, 8, and they go all the way up to number 1, and then they release in one batch everything from 25 to 10.
Yeah.
So this is how the countdown starts, and it's already pretty interesting. So I'm really excited to see what happens this year. Not so much because they always nail it, they always get the best cigar at number 1, but because of how it changes the cigar
It'll
industry
change-
for the next year.
Yeah, it'll change whatever company
Anything
gets
that's
number 1.
Anything that scores
Yeah,
really
their life
high,
has changed for the next few months immediately.
Exactly. We also will talk about the fact that beer sales are up but spirit sales are surging, apparently.
Surging.
Post-pandemic, if it really is
So if
post-pandemic.
beer
I'm not
sales
sure
are up
it is, but
and spirit sales are surging, that means people are drinking.
people are drinking, yeah. So we'll talk about that. And, of course, we'll come around to the time for our most popular segment on the program. Surprisingly, it is still the most popular, although who knows after today's story if that will continue. Drinking News is our little special segment. And today on Drinking News, your teaser headline... Wow, this drink tastes funny. See how that fit in with what we were talking about
nice.
earlier? Yeah, it was almost like you could almost call it a segue.
You should do this for a living.
And not the kind that you ride.
Not the kind you ride.
Yeah, right.
You know, I got to tell you, remember when segways were kind of like the thing, and people would like come out on stage during award programs and stuff?
Oh,
on and
yeah,
stuff
yeah,
like
yeah.
that? Which I have ridden a Segway, and they're really fun.
They are.
No one looks cool on one. Like no one.
Oh, you haven't seen my wife. She's a Segway speed demon. It's amazing. She gets that helmet on and zoom, she's off.
Did you guys ever see that? What was the Corey Feldman? Did you ever see him do his thing where he comes out on stage and he's on one of those, not on a Segway,
oh no,
but
just
one of
like those little boards,
like boards,
Yeah.
and then busts his butt. And it's just,
Now the thing though is the scooters, because they're all over downtown where I live.
scooters, yeah.
The kids on the scooters.
you could
there's
just rent it, you know,
Hundreds of them.
you
Hundreds.
just swipe
of them
your
all the
card
time.
and go ride it around.
Exactly.
I haven't
It's-
ridden one. I've never done that.
I have no desire to ride one of those. Segway's fun, but I don't need to ride a scooter. It's okay.
If they had a
Just
scooter
me.
thing
I'm
by
old.
my house, I might scooter to your house.
See, that would be
I
interesting.
could just ride my bike though.
Yeah, exactly. Why not just ride your bike? That's
Drive.
That's all.
You got a
I'm-
guy that parks my car.
Yeah, that's all I'm trying to say. So this is the time of year when everything starts to shift around. You know, from a time standpoint, you're either much busier than you've been all year, or you're not nearly as busy as you've been all year, depending on what it is you do. For you, I'm guessing it's busier, right?
It's busy.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Are you guys doing holiday parties and everything
Oh,
up there?
God, we
you
had
got-
like
you have a
40
couple
last
party
week.
rooms, right?
Yeah, right. So we're talking about the Rainbow Lodge here,
Right.
and at the lodge, it's an old log cabin, so it's made up of a bunch of smaller spaces, and they're all booked. Like
Right,
they
yes.
have been since March. And it's just nuts how they just all pop up, and the next thing you know, there's a party of 70 over here, and a party of 15 over here, and a party, and it's every day, for the last
Right,
few
right.
weeks. And this coming week is another very, very busy one for us, and then we take a little
When you guys
break.
also in December too here in Texas, the weather's been somewhat chilly in the 68 to 65 range, and somewhat going up to like the low 80s
People are
or
cursing
high
you,
70s.
you realize, right now from other states.
And when it's not actually raining, because our humidity has been, and I'm not joking about this, look it up, it's been 90%. But when it's not actually raining, you guys have that beautiful patio, and
Yeah.
I'm sure it gets full like in
It's
that
not-
kind of weather.
It's been full the last few weeks now
Yeah.
because we've had fortunate weather for patio weather, and even if it gets a slight chill, I mean not too cold, but a slight chill, we've got heaters out there.
You get the patio heaters and
it
stuff
really
like that,
works.
Just to back up, you said the building was originally a log cabin. Now, I knew it was a log cabin, but I always just sort of assumed it was built that way to be the Rainbow Lodge.
So no,
Was it an existing log cabin?
It was. It's been there for 120 years or so. It was. It's been many different things. It was built with local materials as a home. At Ella and TC Jester. Back then, there was nothing out there, and so it was in the middle of nothing
Middle
on
of
a
nowhere.
creek. And
That was the suburbs.
it was really nice, and we're celebrating our 45th anniversary as we speak. But we've been in that location only 15, 16 years or so.
Yeah, the first time I went to the Rainbow Lodge was over off Memorial,
Right.
and that was a beautiful place
On Birdsall, and it's
Beautiful.
really nice. And the thing is that that place floods, and fortunately the current owner of that place can afford to swap out the kitchen on a whim. As you will. But the restaurant, and it's been many things over the current lodge has been many things over the years. Most recently, it was a French restaurant called La Tour d'Argent, no relation to the fancy one in Paris. And they have, we think maybe to protect its structural integrity, built a building on top of the log cabin.
Right.
So that when you walk in, you still see the log cabin. You're still dying inside the log cabin.
There's a roof over it.
Yeah. So it's held up, and what it does, it also bought us a little space to walk to get to the bar. It bought us the bar. It bought us a big room in the back. It's nice. And I encourage all the listeners, if you haven't been in a while, I mean, we've been there 45 years, so not going anywhere. But if you haven't been, come see me and ask for me, and I'll pour you something.
It's
nice.
a beautiful building. When you walk in, you really get the old school lodge feel.
Oh,
it's
for
not
sure.
like it's not like one of those prefab places where they go, okay,
A newfangled place built to resemble a lodge.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
that lodge like thing goes over there. No, this actually feels like that. You know,
Well, and not only that, but in the main rooms, you can see that the floor is actually original, and that the logs in the room is actually original. And there's these big cedar trees that hold up the roof, and those are original.
Right.
The fireplace. I mean, it's a really stunning place. This time of year, especially.
Yeah, it's really good and cool
And
weather.
it's all dressed up for the holidays. Lights everywhere. It's
fun.
beautiful.
Nice.
yeah. I bet you guys have the patio looking amazing.
Oh, it's great. It's great. People love it. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Ian, have you had an opportunity to smoke anything interesting this week?
Recently, yes, I just got
Talk
back
to me.
from Casa de Monte Cristo earlier.
I love that place.
I wandered around a little bit. I was trying to decide what to get. I picked up a cigar that I picked up last week.
Mm-hmm.
I picked up one because I was like, oh, that sounds fun and interesting. And then I smoked it, and I was like, I'm going to go ahead and review this one.
Okay.
The Tatuaje has re-released. They have a series of cigars they put out a few years back called Monsters. I don't know if you remember that, but they had a cigar for, notable monsters of literary history.
Godzilla and whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
So this one, they put it out again. It's the Redux number 2, Tatuaje The Drac.
Oh,
So this
nice.
is the Dracula-themed cigar. And I'm not sure how that translates to a cigar.
Yeah, I'm not either.
But
But it's interesting marketing
it
nonetheless,
was,
right? Yeah.
And it's beautiful. It's it's a Bellicosa. It's a 6 3/4 by 52, so it's a pretty good sized cigar. Ecuadorian Habano Maduro wrapper, Nicaraguan binder and filler. The appearance on this dark espresso brown, toothy wrapper, oily and veiny, firm with some somewhat lumpy kind of texture to it. The band on it is a simple black thin band with blood red lettering that says Tatuaje and has a little.
They always seem to go for the simple bands.
They
you know?
do, and I like that. It looks basically like the standard brown band that they have, but with the blood red lettering. I thought that was kind of a classy thing to just make it simple. The pre-light sniff on this earthy leather barnyard sweet mocha and coffee. The pre-light draw sweet mocha. I used a clip and it was effortless. I put that in the wrong part. For some reason, I put that under the initial light, but let's go ahead and edit it here in my head. I used a clip. It was an effortless draw, sweet mocha coffee, earthy and leathery with a kiss of wood. The initial light, the sweet coffee and pepper draw you in. Cedar and oak lock you into this monstrous cigar. Retrohale is wood, cedar, leather, and pepper. Wood, leather, and pepper. I don't know why I said cedar. The
Cedar is wood.
It is true, but it actually, so oddly enough, cedar is what you usually get on cigars, but this one wasn't cedar. The first third of the cigar, this alluring cigar, immediately captures the senses with a charming mocha and sweet coffee, followed stealthily by leather and oak. A dark pall of leather and pepper hangs over the entire palate. Retrohale is oak, toast, and pepper, appallingly solid ash, and razor burn. You see where I'm going with this?
I'm wondering.
The second third of this was called the Dracula. So I'm
don't-
trying to
yeah,
create a feel here. The second third of this, surrounded by a creeping fog of cigar smoke, the senses are seduced by dark coffee sweetness, oak, and gossamer notes of leather and earth, while dark fruit and a shadow of licorice teases the lips. Retrohale is scintillatingly sweet with toast, oak, and pepper, ghoulishly solid ash, razor burn. Not razor burn, but like a razor.
Yeah, razor
line
sharp,
burn,
yeah.
'cause I was
Got it.
curious about how I should say
Razor
it.
straight.
The look that I'm getting from Mark is awesome. The last third of the
He's
cigar,
waiting for you to do
held
your
captive by the
Dracula
torrent.
accent. Is what he's doing.
Held captive by the torrent of taste, this full-flavored fiend finds his final resting place with mounds of oak, earth, leather, and sweet coffee with lurking wisps of chocolate, mocha, toast, and pepper. Retrohale is bitter, sweet oak, toast, leather, and pepper, ghostly solid ash, and razor burn. I just feel like I got razor burn. Maybe I should have changed that one.
Whatever was that? 3.
I was trying to go with the theme of the cigar. All right. I had some sweet alliterations in there, though. The
Yes.
full-flavored fiend finds his final resting place. Yeah, that was pretty good, right? All right, anyway, the price to quality on this one. Thank you.
Little pat on the shoulder there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I feel...
You feel appreciated, don't
Yes.
you? Yeah.
This is a $13 cigar. It is a big cigar, though. It is, 6 3, almost 7 inches by 52. It's $13. It's fantastic. I absolutely enjoyed it. I gave it a 5.5. This is as good as a lot of cigars that I've had in the $15 and $16 range all day long.
It's a 5.5.
5. I had some pretty good bangers in there, and you guys almost no reaction.
Yeah, well, because we were thinking about Sesame Street, so that's where it was. That's where
Appallingly solid ash and razor burn. Come on,
I got the appallingly solid. Yes. Well, I have no such alliteration in my cigar review notes here, but I will tell you that this week I smoked the Crowned Heads Las Calaveras, the 2021 version of this cigar.
I saw your cigar notes. I almost picked that up just
Yeah?
to do the same one.
Yeah,
for fun.
I thought it would be
decided to go
interesting.
something different.
Well, let me tell you about mine. The Crowned Heads Las Calaveras line is perhaps the longest running annual limited edition cigars in production. Crowned Heads has released them for almost 10 years, with Las Calaveras, as we know, being Spanish for the Calaveras.
I think that translation is correct. I looked it up on Google.
Calaveras actually translates roughly to skulls, which brings us back to one of my favorite celebrations, which is the Dia de los Muertos, or the Day of the Dead. So I was really excited. But back to the cigar. It was rolled at the My Father Cigars factory in Nicaragua, so it's got that going for it, using Nicaraguan binder and filler wrapped in an outer leaf of Ecuadorian Sumatra Oscuro. So pretty excited about this one so far. It's a 50 ring gauge. It's a nice looking Toro with very few visible veins and a nice smooth exterior. So I picked up notes of fresh cut hay on the pre-light sniff and a little bit of citrus. Cold draw was much the same, and there was even a little funkiness to it. Not a bad funk, but a good funk. I lit the Las Calaveras and took my first few puffs. There was no Nicaraguan pepper blast, although there was a slight core of pepper to the initial flavors. I got citrus zest, some tea leaf, leather, and toasted bread. The strength seemed medium, and the burn was interesting. The burn line, well, it started out fairly straight, but the ash, as you can see in this picture here.
Oh, that picture.
Yeah, that picture, yes. You can see the ash held on kind of crooked. So you got straight cigar and then kind of like crooked ash coming out of the bottom, which usually means something's off in the burn line somewhere. Anyway, it's still, again, was something that I touched up with the lighter after I flicked the ash off because I could see that it was going to burn crooked. So as it turns out, nuttiness seemed to be the cigar's primary characteristic, and that stayed with me all the way through. The cigar did develop a creaminess in the second third that lasted to the end as well. Citrus zest and an unusual minerality. Usually when I say minerality with cigar, I'm talking about a really specific thing that I've gotten before in other cigars, and you kind of, I think you probably had it before, you know exactly what I'm talking about. This was a minerality, but it was a little different, along with a note that I couldn't quite identify for the life of me, so I'm just going to call it the mystery note. I don't know what it was, but it was something. The burn line stayed crooked for the rest of the smoke, which didn't really present a problem, although I kept thinking that it would. Eventually, I did have to keep touching it up. I don't know quite how to say this accurately, but I kept waiting for the Las Calaveras, even though it had a variety of flavors, to get into something where it seemed like they were all working together in some awesome way. In my favorite smokes, the distinct notes of all kinds sort of blend together in awesomeness. I don't know how else to put it, but they combine in just the right way. And these seemed happy to be there, but they just weren't working well together as a team kind of like my Tampa Bay Buccaneers in yesterday's game against the 49ers.
So like one of those
Yeah, they blew
awkward
it.
holiday parties where like no one really talks to each other, but everyone's kind of having a good time.
Yeah, that's kind of like that. Yeah, you combine that with the burn issue and a $12 price tag.
Oh,
And I have to say I was a little bit disappointed with this one. I've had other Crowned Head cigars I thought were very good. And even if this had been $8, though, see, I still would have been holding it up against other $8 cigars that I've had that I thought were very good. And I don't know. For what it's worth, I looked up a couple of reviews of the Las Calaveras 2021 online, and I didn't see any references to the burn issue, so that could have been localized to just mine. And to be fair, it wasn't a Gurkha. It didn't like blow up on me or disintegrate halfway through the cigar while it smoked. But overall, I really can't say it was a $12 smoking experience, and that's what brings us to it. I would be interested to try another one to see if maybe this was just an anomaly, but based on my experience, it's pretty hard to recommend this cigar. I did enjoy some of the flavors, but again, $12? Price to quality, 3.5.
wow.
Yeah. Because like I said, if it had been $8, I still wouldn't have
Yeah.
said it's quite worth it based on and compared to other $8 cigars that I've smoked. So at 12, yeah, definitely. And again, I could have just gotten one that just wasn't quite right. You know, it happens. Cigars are an art, not a science. There is certainly some science involved, but you know what I mean. Getting that right combination of things is tough to do stick to stick, quite frankly. So anyway, that was my experience with the Crowned Heads Las Calaveras, and that's that.
Well, on that note,
All right, yeah, I feel like I brought the whole program down.
I think it was missing razor burn.
We were going. That's what it was.
missing razor burn.
Missing razor burn. Yes. All right. I feel like I brought the whole show down, so
Hey,
let's
razor
take a
burn's
break.
a little scary, right? That's why I put that in there.
I think Razor Burn is, in fact, a villain in Marvel Comics. I could be wrong, but I think it could be. All right. We will take a break. We'll come
He
back.
wears tights.
I'll try to not put another downer on the show here in the next segment, and we'll start drinking wine. So
I like wine.
let's do that. Smoking and toasting. Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. Our program's all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. Our guest
love those
today is Marc Borel, who is our resident Smoking and Toasting wine expert. And we're about to get into the wines for just a moment, but I wanted to pass this along to you. I was going to see if this sounded good to you guys. I was reading an article on liquor.com about different...
Liquor.com is a lot of fun.
It's a great site. Love it. And they have not only great articles, they also have great drink recipes there, too. Great place to find if you're looking for... That was where I went, by the way, when I got my my recipe, as simple as it is, for the vodka gimlets that I wanted to make. And I made those at the Christmas party.
I enjoyed those.
It was pretty good. Yeah, it really was. I was proud of myself. It's a very simple drink. That's why I can make it, but it was good.
So delicious.
It was good, yes. So Jim Meehan, apparently, at New York City's PDT, that's a bar, came up with a drink that he calls the Great Pumpkin, and it's in this article on holiday cocktails that I found at liquor.com. Now, I wanted to share this with you and see if you guys think this sounds good or does not sound good. It is the cocktail that combines apple brandy, rye whiskey, maple syrup, pumpkin ale, and a whole egg.
Okay. So like a flip of some sort.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess so. Yeah. In fact, it even says here it's a seasonal flavored flip that's garnished with
You have to
grated
shake
nutmeg
it for like 9 minutes.
for an extra boost of pumpkin spice flavor. So yeah, I mean, does that sound like it would be good?
Yes. I mean,
I'm not really
it's-
experienced with flips.
It
so.
sounds boozy, which I dig.
Mm-hmm.
And I like apple brandy. I think that's kind of fun in there.
Apple brandy in a mixed drink, I have to say, is pretty good. And you said apple brandy and rye. I can see that going together.
I
Kind of
think-
a
brandy,
little
rye
spice.
whiskey, maple syrup, pumpkin ale.
The rye is
a
going
whole
to give
egg.
it some winter spice to it, but I think what would be really cool is to make that with Calvados instead, and give it a more of an apple kind of flavor. And I'm not sure what kind of pumpkin you're going to get out of the beer.
And
Out
that
of the
depends,
pumpkin
I think, very much on the beer, because some
Right, 'cause
pumpkin
some
beers
pumpkin
are
ales are-
very pumpkin forward, and
Right.
some are more beer forward with some pumpkin in the back.
Yeah, some of them almost don't really taste that much pumpkin, you taste more of that pumpkin pie spice,
Right.
as opposed to actual pumpkin flavor.
Or that shipyard one where it really tastes more like the crust than anything else.
And that's so good,
It's really
too.
good.
It's really, really good.
It's really
They
good.
just call it
really,
pumpkin
really good.
pie crust.
Well, anyway,
Right.
I thought that was interesting. If you want to get the recipe, you can get it. There is a great article on liquor.com, and I recommend people to this site all the time. It's 20 cocktails to make this fall.
I would imagine it's a pretty cocktail. It probably has a big thick
It
foam
actu-
on it.
It actually is. In fact, I will
You can sprinkle
show
some nutmeg
you.
on top of it, some winter spices.
Let me go back to it here, and I'll show you the photo from liquor.com. It actually looks very inviting. And there it is. I'll show this to you and to Ian, to the camera off of the iPad here, but there it is.
Yeah, that looks
That's
good.
It does look
beautiful,
delicious,
yeah.
doesn't it? And I'll show it to the camera here for people to be able to see.
That makes you want to go out and buy glasses like that.
Oh, yeah, I love that glass. That's,
You don't have one?
don't you love
I
it?
do not.
It's
Well,
like-
so I have a good assortment of glasses. I have let's see, I have champagne glasses.
I
have
love
at least
those
a couple
old
of each.
school champagne glasses.
The flutes,
that
yeah.
are not the flutes, but they're the
Ah.
little cup.
It's called a coupe.
Oh, gosh.
Coupe?
It's called a coupe, and it
Love
was
those.
the story is that it was modeled after Marie Antoinette's breast.
Oh, now I like it even more.
Yeah,
Wow, I didn't know that. See, I usually, at home when I have bubbles, I usually just pour it into a white wine glass.
I do too.
rather
I have,
than the flute.
I
I
have
have the
champagne
flutes,
glasses
but, yeah.
at home. I have like real champagne glasses, which isn't a flute. It's not a. Those are used, I think, more for the American audience because that's what they expect. But the champagne glass I have at home is very similar to this glass here, and I have absolutely no problem drinking champagne out of a wine glass. No
Speaking
problem.
of this glass, tell us a little bit
Yeah.
about what's in this glass.
Okay, so we're starting. What I wanted to do was bring some quite robust, wintry kind of
Some big ones.
holiday wines. The first two will have references to Bordeaux.
Okay.
This first one is from Ashes and Diamonds. It's their Cabernet Franc, which is a Bordeaux varietal. It's one of the varietals that you find in that part of France.
Ashes and diamonds, you said?
Ashes and Diamonds.
Okay.
And I know that we took some pictures earlier of it, but the really cool thing about this particular bottle is that it's made by quite a famous team of winemakers. Steve Mathiasen, who's well known in Napa for producing some the varietals that you know and love, but in a way that might be more readily available in France.
I see.
Right, and he's based in Napa, which is kind of cool that he's doing this because
But he Francifies them in
he
a certain
does,
way. Yeah?
which is not a bad thing.
Right,
I'm going
right.
to go on record and say this. He produces some really great California French varietals that have become famous in California that are he's kind of taken the California taste out of it and made it a bit more the way it was supposed to have tasted years ago.
And is
from
this
France.
is this more a function of the grape, or is it more a function of the terroir?
It's more a function of neither. It's more a function of how he's making the wine.
I see the
Right?
process.
Yeah, his partner is Diana Snowden, who is well known for a bunch of Mondavi and Ducru, not Ducru. We're going to have that in a bit, but Chateau Dujac out of Burgundy, which is interesting because they're not producing Pinot Noir at all. But this Cabernet Franc has this kind of Bordelaise. It has a flavor that you might find in Bordeaux, not in California, which I think is really cool.
So what I find interesting about this is that on the nose and just looking at it, it kind of promises that it's going to deliver this big, and it's actually a bit lighter than I was expecting when I actually drink it.
It's very light, especially on the front of the palate.
Almost more like a Pinot Noir.
But it builds
Yes,
as
it does.
as it,
The
and
grapiness
those tannic
builds,
structures
yeah.
really build, and I think it's a beautiful varietal that really does this because with Cabernet Franc you can get something that's really big and giant, and especially in California. Mm-hmm. And in France, in the Loire Valley, you can get something that's a bit more subdued and pretty and maybe a little bit more feminine. And I think this kind of draws that line right smack in the middle.
This immediately makes me want like a steak.
Yeah.
Like a peppery steak
Yeah.
with like some bold cheese.
Yeah, and I think the fruit on this wine that really kind of pushes out really shows you that you can have something grilled and spiced and seasoned and
Yeah, it kind of wants that a little bit. I think like when I think food on this.
yeah, I think this needs salt. I think this needs black pepper.
Yeah.
I think this is
The black pepper's what really like
without a doubt, yeah.
peppery steak.
I think it needs the rest of the bottle. That's what I think it needs. No, it really
There's
is
plenty
delicious. What I love about it is more so than some other wines in this general vicinity in terms of taste, is that the way it leaves a very grapey thing on the palate. It's not just that sort of normal
funny you say that.
wine.
It's actually
aftertaste.
made of grapes.
It's very well. No, I get that, but I'm just
That's
No, but
I'm not on today. No,
that's snarky.
but honestly,
I'm in a mood
with
today, I
so
guess.
many, with
it's
so
a
many
razor
other,
burn maybe.
I think that's what it was. With so many other wines, though, I don't get quite this much just pure grape
Yeah.
on the finish.
Yeah, and
or what it
Cabernet
leaves on the
Franc
palate.
tends to do that. It gives you the fruit. You can actually taste the fruit. But what you're getting, you get that right at the front end, and then as it lingers, as the whatever's left in your mouth once you've swallowed lingers in your mouth, then that's where those tannins pop up.
It's a grape skin kind of flavor.
Yeah.
is what I
Right,
get,
very
like
well
that.
said. Yeah.
So I may have done this before on this show, but I'll do it one more time, and I think this is a really cool study in tannins and in structure. Go with me here. You're in the grocery store, and you in the produce
All
section.
right, hold on.
Okay.
I grabbed one of those carts with the faulty wheels. So
Yeah, yeah.
You got to take that back and get a better one. Okay.
I
Got
think
it.
we're good
Okay.
now.
So you go to the produce section and you wait for the guy to walk away so you can actually snag one of those little grapes and taste it, right?
Yeah.
Well, and once you put it in your mouth and you bite down, it bursts and you get this burst of the juice and the fruit, and then you chew a little bit more and you taste the meat of the berry, and then you chew a little bit further, and what's left is this dry bitterness, not in a bad way.
Yeah.
But your mouth gets dry and quite
skin
bitter,
and
and
the-
you taste the skins and the seeds. It's the same thing when you're having, walnuts or shelled pecans. It's the exact same thing. That's tannins. And so that dryness that you're getting on the back end, even though it's not heavy and it's not pronounced, it's quite velvety on this wine, is that's what that is. That's what those tannin structures. Cabernet Franc is a thicker skinned grape.
So there's more skin there to taste. Is what
That's
you're
right.
saying.
Yeah. So when they crush it and it's in the maceration tanks or while it's fermenting, even if they use the grapes while it's fermenting, that's what you're getting, that big richness, but it's not over the top.
Is there an easy way for you to explain the difference between how he did this, how he prepared the one that was more like the French way than the typical Napa way?
So I can be a little ginger about this. I think it's quite well known that like, historically the Californians had been producing wines in a much bolder, juicier, dare I say, sweeter style, and a lot of I think, frankly, for the American audience, Americans prefer a sweeter style of wine, and by sweet I mean juicier and a little bit fruitier. And what Steve Mathiasen has done is pulled back on that heavy maceration and a lot of these questionable practices that could add some things to the wine. He's really kind of stripped all that away and produced it in a way that is a bit more French than it is American.
It adds an odd delicacy to a pretty bold
It's a good
wine.
way to say it, yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's really interesting because, like, even after, like, I haven't taken a sip in a couple minutes now, and I'm still
You're still
enjoying
getting that-
what's going on there.
totally.
There's still a velvetyness. There's still a few other things.
It
that are-
enrobes the
Yeah,
mouth
yeah.
in a way that I think it's really pleasant and really nice, because those tannins do fall off after a while. And what you're left with is this almost richness, this grapiness, like
Yeah,
you
yeah.
said before.
The other interesting thing I find is when I first nosed it, it smelled a lot bolder than I thought. And now that I've had a few sips and I'm nosing it, I'm kind of picking up the flavors of the wine itself more than that boldness that I had initially.
Well, that's kind of what I was saying at the very beginning. I was expecting it to be bigger. It turned out to be a little bit lighter than what I was originally anticipating. And I think it was me trying to say that same thing that you just said. I think it's really quite good. Mark, what does a bottle like this go for at the restaurant?
At the lodge, it's about $130.
So it's definitely
It's up there, but it's become I think it's a place like the Rainbow Lodge. It's more in the median range. But Cabernet Franc is one of those varietals that I think you can understand now that people are a bit scared of. Because you're not real sure what you're going to get with Cabernet Franc. This is just a really great example.
I bet this goes amazing with a lot of the stuff on your menu, the game especially.
Yeah, and the things that don't have as much fat, like the buffalo and the
the elk, yeah.
Because the juiciness in the wine kind of really counterbalances that. The seasoning of the steak, it's great. That's a great pairing for sure.
So this would be a great wine to serve at your holiday dinner.
Absolutely.
Really would be, yeah.
I'm not real sure. I don't buy a lot of wines for the lodge that have retail availability. So I'm not real sure where it is, if it is anywhere retail, but I do have some at the lodge that are available
that you can buy and take home.
Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
That's
Give me a
absolutely
call and I'll get it set up for you or pop in and we can chat.
Or do your holiday meal at the lodge. You could always do that.
Yeah.
Which is not a bad idea.
We're open Christmas Eve, although I'm pretty sure we're close to booked, but we are open Christmas Eve. So.
I bet you.
Yeah, you guys book up pretty quickly.
Months. Yeah,
like if
months
you
in
think
advance.
about, I should go to the Rainbow Lodge, even on a regular middle of the whenever week, you might want to get there, start calling on Monday, not Thursday.
Well, come January, things will open up a little bit more. But this time of year, with all the parties that are happening, a lot of the rooms are booked. So.
Love it. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, we will try yet another red wine that is sitting here beckoning to me, calling out to me from inside the glass. Oh, yeah, but I'm going to have a little left so you can, A-B. That's never a bad idea.
I'm not going to try that wine. I'm going to do it.
All right, fair enough. We'll be right back.
All right.
Welcome back into Smoking and Toasting. Our program is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. Is it just me, or is the guitar player just a little bit behind on that? Maybe
that guitar player's awesome. What's that tone?
Maybe he's just a little behind on it. I don't know. Not quite.
Also, he sounds like he's a pretty good arranger.
You think so? I bet that guitar player could write a song about the Nicaraguan pepper blast and have it ready by next week's show. I bet he could. I'm just saying.
I'm sure, because you have extra time this week, too.
Welcome back at Smoking and Toasting, our program all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. In case you hadn't figured it out, by the way, that is Ian on guitar on that track. So that's one.
Or we just rag on random guitar players.
We could do that, too,
That was recorded on a Mesa Boogie Heartbreaker amplifier, straight in, by the way, and with my Gibson Howard Roberts.
Oh, nice. I like it. All right, we are going to move to the second wine, which I've got to admit, it's a little hard for me because I'm enjoying that first one so much. I really want to go back to it here, but I'm going to wait, and we'll go for the second wine.
I had to do further research on that.
So the first one was a Cabernet Franc.
Cabernet Franc. And the second one has Cabernet Franc in it.
Okay.
But it's basically heavy on Merlot.
Okay.
So this is Bordeaux.
Right.
From a region called Haute-Médoc.
Called what?
Haute-Médoc.
Haute-Médoc.
Haute-Médoc. And it is so Bordeaux is on the western side of France, and it's split down the middle by a river called the Gironde, and oftentimes you hear left bank, right bank, the left bank of the river, the right bank of the river. So the right bank would be the eastern side of the river, and wines from that not all the time, but wines from that side of the river tend to be heavier in Merlot, and the wines from the left bank or the western side of the river tend to be heavier in Cabernet Sauvignon. And
is that just because of the preference, or is it about the soil? What causes
it's a
that?
little about the soil. It's a little about history. Bordeaux's been around for a millennia. In fact, this particular winery was founded in the 1700s, 1720. Is when this particular...
They probably know something about wine.
Well, I know a few things here or there. But this is from Du Cru Beaucaillou. This is one of their... Which, by the way, is... In 1855, there was a classification of Bordeaux's, and their goal was to try to tell you which were the best ones. And so you hear things like first growth, second growth. This is a second growth cru.
And so is second growth considered to be better than first, or is first considered to be better than
First
second?
is considered to be better. Now, obviously, this is all,
Right.
up to you. but it's all subjective. But I think this is a really cool example of what Merlot-based Bordeaux can be.
This has a really nice woody note on the
really
nose.
does.
Do you get any peppermint? Do you get like the super minty on the nose?
On the nose,
I
yes.
can get a little minty.
I don't know if I would have said peppermint, but there's definitely mint there, and it probably is peppermint. I just wouldn't have.
Yeah, this is a really cool product from the Beaucaillou family, who is very well known in Bordeaux for making these really amazing wines and really expensive wines. Their second label is something that we've carried at the lodge for many years. But this is actually almost a third label. It's kind of a last. A new member of the family came in and wanted to do something that honored Madame Beaucaillou, and so that's what we have here, Madame de Beaucaillou. This is from the Ducru Beaucaillou family. We serve this at the lodge by the glass. It's like $20, $21 or something by the glass.
So, the last wine that we had was so light on the initial part of the palate, and then did this build thing where it lingered and lingered. This one is almost the opposite.
Flip mirrored, yeah.
It's like this one is so big right at the beginning, and then has this kind of delicate, real tannic, really beautiful finish that just kind of lingers and then trail. And you can almost feel the point where it just kind of
trails away. Yeah.
Yeah, you feel it in your gums. You know,
Yeah.
it's one of those dry, tannic, structured wines. But that's Bordeaux. I mean, this is classic Bordeaux. And by the way, I've said on this show before that I think that Merlot is what Cabernet drinkers would actually really prefer. They just don't know it. And Merlot is one of the most planted varietals in all of France. And so when I bring this out to a customer and I say, "Oh, this is beautiful Bordeaux. Oh, we love Bordeaux. This is great." Well, we typically like Cabernet. Okay, that's fine, but this is not. This is Merlot, which I think is beautiful. It's one of my favorites.
It's. I'm trying to think of the way that I want to describe it. It's almost like it. Ian, you really kind of hit it. How it starts out big, and then it's almost like you almost feel it. Like some of those.
It's like the profile of a bird's wing. It starts off big and then just trails off.
I was thinking about those candies that you get that you put them in your mouth and you just kind of feel them disintegrate in your mouth. It's almost like that feeling for a wine.
Those little after dinner mint things.
Yeah. You know what I'm talking about. You
Like,
feel them just kind of
they're
go to
solid
pieces
for a moment, and then they just kind of
crumble
whoosh
almost.
all
Yeah,
at
right,
once.
right.
You know,
Yeah,
It certainly does make you want more. I mean,
It
does.
kind of really gets that saliva working in your mouth. And
It's. I loved on that first wine. I loved the linger. I loved taking a sip and then just sitting and enjoying it for a long time. This one's quite the opposite in that
It almost is like the Doritos effect. When it goes
yeah,
away,
it's
you're like,
you
I
take
need
that
another
sip,
sip.
you take that, yeah, and you
There's no
want, you're like,
MSG.
I want a little more of that.
or razor burn for that matter. But I think what it does give you is the need for something fatty and rich. This in a ribeye.
Oh yeah. You want something where you
Duck.
on the bone.
You want crispy fries with mayonnaise. You want. I mean, this is.
Oh my God, that sounds good right now.
Yeah.
Wow. Let me ask you a question about wine. Obviously, this is something you do on a regular basis because you got to know what you're doing for your job, and wine is something you enjoy. Has being in a situation where you can regularly taste and enjoy wines of this caliber, has it ruined cheap wine for you?
Without a doubt.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
you can't, and I'm not picking on Barefoot, but like you can't drink a glass of that and go, well, I can enjoy it for blank. Like,
I mean, I have, I'd like to consider myself a rather couthful person.
Right,
That's a
right,
word.
right.
But
and I'm not trying to pick on Barefoot. Just
yeah, well, a lot of things that Gallo does is just it happens not to be my taste, but that's just me, and it's in a fortunate position to be able to taste really good wine,
Yeah.
Right.
subjectively, in my opinion, every day.
right.
So, yeah, it's tough, and I'm also a little out of it when it comes to I mentioned retail wines. I have no idea what's in the grocery store. I don't.
Right.
I have people give me wine all the time to taste. Oh, here, taste this. Make sure this is a sample.
As far as I can tell, when you go to the grocery store, you can find Barefoot and 7 Deadly Sins and 19 Crimes.
There's a few others. No,
I'm sure there's more than that, but those are the ones I always
Well,
see.
it depends where you're shopping. Hey, my wife brought home like a week or two ago Snoop Dogg's bubbly one.
My wife just bought 2 bottles of that.
Yeah.
I have no idea what that's going to be.
It wasn't
like.
my favorite, but it was pretty good. It's pretty good, you know.
Well, and you know what I'm a big believer in the fact that you should drink what you like, and if you dig that, I say go for it. Have it all the time. I tell people if the $6 stuff at Target is the stuff that you want and that's what you want to drink on a daily basis, go for it. I'd rather you drink that than because honestly, if I try to give you this Bordeaux, someone who drinks the $6 stuff at Target, they're probably not going to dig this.
I'm not going to dig it as
Right,
much.
they're not going to have the palate appreciation for something on that level.
Yeah,
and
I'm
it's the same
fortunate-
way with cigars.
Yeah, you guys do this every day with cigars, and so I feel comfortable bringing something along this line for you today, just to and it's for 2 reasons. First of all, I wanted to show you kind of the difference between what the Americans are doing in a French style and what the French are doing in their style that's been around for millennia, right? Now, 2 different varietals, but 2 obviously different styles of wine as well. But I think that if you were to pick up, say, a Cab Franc from somewhere else, some other domestic house in the grocery store, you would find it to be a lot different than what you have here.
Right. So what does this one sell for at the
So
restaurant?
we sell this at the Lodge for $21 a glass. So this is actually by the glass.
Okay.
At the Lodge, it's we want, especially this time of year, we want to make sure that we had something really appropriate for the season and something that a lot of people, it's unattainable for a lot of people, and break it down into a glass price.
Right, so that it's
That
not,
makes a difference. If you want, especially
agree.
if you want to try a few different things, you're not committed to that 150 or 200 for a bottle.
Well,
or more. I'm sure you've got some pretty pricey bottles.
Yeah, we do. I mean, there's a lot of high-end wines on the list there, but we also are doing something really cool called our core event program. Now, this is a gadget, it's a little contraption that allows you to access the contents of the bottle without opening it. So there's a needle that goes into the cork. It's injected with argon gas. It pressurizes the bottle, and then the wine is allowed to flow from that needle out of a spout and into the glass. It's a really cool thing. And what we have taken with that is the ability to pour $100, $200, $300 glasses of wine.
Oh, and not have to open the bottle.
And not have to
so
open
speak.
the bottle. So now I'm not committed to sell all 4 glasses in a day and a half or 2 days.
Exactly, yeah.
And I'm giving my guests the opportunity to try something that they would have never tried before and perhaps don't want to gamble on a $500 bottle of wine.
Yeah, because well, like anything, like whiskey, because we do that all the time. If we go in to find a new whiskey or whatever, there's only so much you're going to spend without knowing what it actually is like. And then the problem is if you don't know what it's actually like, it's too much to try. So that offers such a nice
and this all started,
compromise.
I don't know, 6 or 8 years ago when I first started at the Lodge. When the Wine Spectator comes out, it's very similar to the way that the cigar publication does.
Right, Cigar Aficionado.
Thank you. When Wine Spectator comes out with their top 10, which just happened a few weeks ago, in the very same, I think they're owned by the same people.
I think they are.
That wouldn't surprise me.
When they come out with their top 10, historically what we'll do is we'll buy all those top 10 wines and serve them by the glass. And so if it's something
smart,
really fancy and really unattainable, maybe it's a $500 or $600 bottle of something.
People can try a glass.
People
of
can
it.
try it.
Yeah.
I'm absolutely going to offer you a glass of that.
When I lived in Philadelphia, there was this thing they did there called Wine Week, and it was a steakhouse that I would go to. I don't remember. You would basically buy. I would go with a buddy for lunch. You would basically buy a ticket, and it was expensive. It was $100 or so. But what you got for that $100 was unbelievable because the wine companies would all come around table to table and pour you very small, pours, kind of like going to the whiskey social, except they came to you and you had food and you were sitting there eating, and I got to taste all kinds of wines. I would never have said, oh yeah, I'll go ahead and spring the $200 for that bottle, not knowing what it was going to be. It was the first time I had Farniente and some other brands that I had, seen, had heard of, but had never actually plunked down the money and tried.
Here's a quick question. How many ounces is a standard pour, roughly, just in an estimate?
I think it depends on the place, and it could range between 5 and 8.
Okay.
ounces.
So let's average that to 6 for now.
Okay.
So 6 ounces is regular pour for our purposes right now. When you go to a whiskey event, the average standard pour is a half ounce, right? Like that's what when you go get a sample, they're going to pour you a half ounce. Now, considering a regular
Unless
pour of
Alan
whiskey
Denny is pouring, in
is
which case
1
it'll
to
be a little
1.5, and sometimes 2, depending on where you're going and stuff. That's like let's say that's 2 ounces is a regular pour of whiskey. How much do you guys pour generally at the bar? Like probably 2 ounces.
It depends. If it's neat, about 1.5 ounces.
An ounce and a half. Okay, so that's a third of that. And so if you're walking into a wine event that costs $100 and you're trying bottles of wine, and they're pouring you small pours, you're probably getting 1.5 ounces or 2 ounces of everything. And that people always think, oh well, they're small drinks. Even with the whiskeys and everything, or bourbons and stuff like that, they think, oh, that's so small. That will add up, and it will add up quickly.
Yes, it will.
Well, there's 26 ounces in a 750 milliliter bottle. So you can get 26 1 ounce pours, or you can get,
any way you want to
10,
divide it
3,
up
yeah.
mathematically, yeah. But
Yeah,
that's so when you say like, okay, so it was about $100 or $120 or something like that. If you're getting to try a bunch of wines or a bunch of whiskeys that you can't walk into, for instance, Reserve 101 and try 15 whiskeys.
Sure.
For $100.
Yeah, good luck with
that. If you do,
that.
it's the cheapest stuff they got.
Right.
You still probably can't make that happen.
Right, exactly.
But
so that's why it's so much fun.
Right, and
to
same
go to
thing.
these
I'm
things
assuming the same thing with wine events where you get to try a whole bunch of different things. They know they're going to pour so many bottles so they can open them. Because that's one of the things. Like whiskeys doesn't fall under that category of once I open my whiskey, got to finish it within a day and a half.
Right.
We don't have to worry about that in that
Exactly,
world.
exactly.
But wine, it can go south pretty quick.
Yeah.
Mark, how often does someone come in and say, just like completely turn the selection over to you? Now, I know you would ask them questions, what they're having, what they like, but how often does someone come in and say, I trust you, just bring me something you think I'll like? Does that happen?
It does. It happens every day.
And is that the most fun?
It is. It's a lot of fun. Well, the thing is that getting to know these people. Now, I've been there long enough that I have regulars. I have people that come and see me. I have people who I have brought to them a bottle that they really love, and so now they trust me enough to go, all right.
And now you've got that
I'm spending
in your brain,
$200
too.
today. We're having this and this. Go. You know what I like.
Love
let's,
that. Yeah.
Let's do it. But more often than not, it's, okay, we want something different. We want to do something. We typically like this and this. I'm having this. She's having that. What do you think?
Right. Right. I love that. But even there, the customer, just like you were saying, you get to know the customer getting to know you allows them to put that kind of... I don't know that I would do that just walking into a restaurant with a sommelier that I don't know anything about yet. You assume they've got to be pretty good or they wouldn't have gotten the job, but still, it's not like we have a track record. Once we do, it's like, dude, you take it away. Here's what I'm having. Go.
I would have to assume, though, as a first-time customer of the restaurant, you have such a wonderful, gregarious attitude, but also professional at the same time when you're at work. You ride that line so well. And
he doesn't bring up razor burn at the table.
He does not.
Come see me tomorrow.
Razor burn.
You know what?
But I would imagine that like a first-time customer, depending on their attitude about it, like I know a lot of bartenders, and you're obviously not a bartender, but I know a lot of bartenders hate it when people walk in and are like, I don't know, just make me a drink. Or you decide or whatever, because the problem with that is there's so much of a range, and I'm sure you get this, there's so much of a range of different styles and things that, you could give someone a customer something and they're like, that's not what I was looking for. It is, I think, beholden to the customer to say, I like these kind of things. And I know you're going to ask those questions, and that makes a big difference, because I know every time I and my wife have walked in there and put it entirely in your hands, what are you having for dinner? What are you doing? And it's been stellar, like 100% every time.
Thank you.
So good.
Well, I think I recognize the fact that they're not coming to see me. They're coming for a meal.
And the experience and everything
and the whole
else,
thing, right? And if I can make that experience a little better, well, then that's exactly what I'll do. And so to do that, what I'll do is I'll ask a series of questions. Okay, if you were at home right now, what would you be? If you're sitting on your couch, what would you be drinking? What do you like? What's your jam? Okay, take that and go, all right, so is that what you're in the mood for tonight, or do you want something go a little crazy with it and get. I now that I know your style and what you did.
Right. Now tell me how far off the beaten path you want to walk.
Let's talk about something fun and different. And don't be shocked. And so there are a lot of, how do I say this right? There are a lot of buttoned up sommeliers in town that I think have your best interest in mind, but are really looking to put down weird shit that you can't get anywhere, and they just they want to be. It's a trophy for them.
They want to be a little more outrageous.
Yeah,
showing off a little bit.
Exactly,
Right,
and so don't be afraid if I come to the table and say, okay, great, tell me what you want to spend tonight, because if you really only want to spend $50, yeah, I can absolutely make that happen, and you're going to be happy with it. If you want to splurge and spend a couple $100, you bet, and we're going to have some fun with this. But I don't want to be. The last thing I want to do is bring you something and guilt you for whatever reason. Maybe your date is looking at you funny, or you're in front of your boss, or I don't want to guilt you into something that you didn't want to begin with.
Well, here's my perspective from the standpoint of the customer. If I'm going to spend $50 for the bottle of wine, and it's just okay, or it's just it doesn't really blow me away, yeah, I'm probably fine with that. But if I'm going to spend $100, if I'm going to spend $200 on a bottle of wine at a restaurant, I want the result to be that when we're walking out, we're going, man, that bottle of wine was fabulous.
You want to talk about it.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's when I really do want your help the most. It's great if you can recommend me a $50 bottle that's awesome, but I'm less concerned about getting it wrong there than I am when I'm dropping a couple $100.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
and that's one of the things that I think is really cool when you pull me aside and you're like, man, that was really good. I can't wait to come back, either have it again or can't see what you
or try
wait
what's
to see
next.
what you do next time. But we also have some fail safes in place. So let's say, for example, a group comes in and they want something a bit more pedestrian. They want something that you can find in the Duckhorn or Silver Oak or something along those lines. And without a doubt, I've got those, and I'm happy to sell those to you with a smile. But if you can't pronounce this, and there's a little number next to it, I'll take 1855. Okay, great. Or if you don't want your date to know that you're only spending $50 on the bottle, no problem. I got you. We have some fail safes in there to make that happen as well.
That's a pretty amazing thing. I will tell you that the last time we were there, me and my wife, you said, what was your budget? And we told you 200 would be our tops. And you came back with something that was half of that. And just blew our socks off.
Yep.
Absolutely
Love
it.
that. Yeah,
It was so nice.
Well, and that's the thing is, I think that a lot of places in town,
it's nice to have that
will take
headroom to work
every
with.
bit of that $200 and make sure that you're spending that money.
And there's some places you say 200 and they bring you one that's 215.
Exactly.
Like they're pushing it just that little bit more.
I'm not
okay.
that guy. Okay, now that I know that your budget is $200, we don't have to go there. I think you've described something perfect for me. That's $170. I'm going to bring you this,
And me personally, there are certain things that I like, but I love trying new stuff.
Yeah,
so I
I'm
think
the same way.
Part of the adventure is, what do I get? What's fun? What's
Absolutely.
interesting?
Absolutely. All right. Speaking of what do we get, I'm very, very curious about
that was
this
a
tequila.
long, very short segment.
It was a long, very short segment.
Sorry.
These happen. But when you're going about something good, it's well worth it. I am very curious about this tequila because, as Ian pointed out, I did not do the safety measures and even take the top off and sniff it. So
I will take this risk.
All right,
this is a burden I'll bear.
we will be right back with Anejo Tequila. It is Smoking and Toasting, show number 307.
All right.
Normally cruise time 20 something before he brings in. So all what that was.
Welcome back to Smoking and Toasting. Our program is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. What were you saying? My wife was talking about how normally we do give in and taste the spirit before I bring it in, if I'm bringing the spirit in. But in this case, we have not had the opportunity, so this is going to be all new for me and for you guys as we get to the El Mayor. And by the way, if I say El Mayor, I'm expecting it to be spelled M-E-J-O-R. In this case, it's spelled M-A-Y. So it's spelled just like mayor. But I know they wouldn't pronounce it Mayor.
Like
They
the
pronounce it
square
Mayor. Yeah,
next to it,
right.
yeah.
Exactly. So we'll look forward to that. In the meantime, let me share this with you guys: the top 25 cigars of 2022. The list is being released by Cigar Aficionado. They've released number 10, number 9, and number 8 as of this show's taping. And so I can share those with you, and we'll get back to the rest of them probably within the next week or so. At number 10 is the Arturo Fuente Rare Pink, the vintage 1960s series. The name of this cigar is Sophisticated Hooker. But this Rare Pinks it was a really big deal. Remember we talked about it earlier.
Yeah, we did talk
and
about that.
I looked for them. I was at Casa de Monte Cristo this week. I looked for them, did not see them. So I'm guessing many of them are sold out everywhere that they are. But that came in at number 10. At number 9, the Romeo and Julieta Reserva Real Nicaragua Churchill, which I believe, if I am not mistaken, was crafted by A.J. Fernandez. I'll have to read the review once it comes out. But the Reserva Real, let me see. I just clicked to it. Made by Tabacalera A.J. Fernandez Cigars de Nicaragua. So that's right. That's number 9. At number 8, and only these 3 have been released so far, the Padron 1964 Anniversary Series Principe.
Yeah.
So
any of their anniversary series are pretty amazing.
Yeah. So a Fuente, Romeo and Julieta by AJ, and a Padron on the list so far. We'll see. We'll see where else we go when the rest of the list comes out.
I'm going to say one word about this tequila.
Yeah?
I haven't tasted it yet, but buttery.
Buttery, really, just from the nose, huh?
Just from the nose. Like
Mark, you're a tequila guy, aren't
I
you?
love tequila, yeah.
Yeah. So
I get some butter, yeah, for sure.
yeah. Will you get anything else on the nose here?
Besides the obvious agave.
Yeah, there's definitely agave,
Yeah,
which
so
you can.
that's kind of an assumed note.
I like it.
I
nose,
think
I
you
like
get the regular the añejo nose, the caramel and the,
Yeah.
Right.
the aged wood.
I tell you what, there's some pepper once you take the first sip on the finish. It's got a little bit of the sort of maple and the sort of brown sugar and all of the typical añejo notes, but there's pepper on it as well.
I
What are you
love
getting
the oak. Like the buttery
It
and the
definitely
oak.
has oak, yes.
To me, right up front, the buttery and the oak. I like the pepper aftertaste in the background. I like the...
That's some pretty darn fine tequila.
This picked up a lot of wood.
Now,
In the best possible way.
one of the reasons that I bought this one, I was looking at several of them, that I decided to go with this one because it was under $30. And under 30 for an añejo is a pretty rare thing unless it's, really not that good. I assume they're trying to get, it may have been 30, 31, but it was not, this was not an expensive añejo.
This is a handmade legacy, or 4 generations. Over 4 generations, we've been perfecting the art and craft of growing agave and distilling tequila. We continue to this day with the age-old process handed down through the generations. Every sip represents this hard-earned legacy. You know what? I bang for the buck. What a good tequila.
Got an almost like a little butterscotch in there this time, which is kind of an interesting. I don't know if it's just me or
A little, yeah. It's that cooked milky.
There's kind of a meatiness to this, too. I don't really know how else to describe it. There's kind of a meatiness to this that I kind of enjoy. It's big and round.
It's good. It's good. Do you like?
Have a big bite. It's light. Doesn't have a big bite.
Light, yes. Doesn't have a big tequila hug coming running back to
There's
you.
an
It's pretty light.
interesting kind of bitter thing that happens right at the very end of the palate, but doesn't linger at all.
And I'm getting a brightness, like a real high note at the very end.
Almost a fruity thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of. It's really...
Like right in the center of the palate. Yeah, I like it. Honestly, I didn't necessarily have very high expectations just because lately tequila has been getting so pricey. I mean, I'm seeing reposados for $100. You know? That's crazy.
It's crazy.
Yeah. But this was an añejo, and it was in the $30 range, and I think it's really pretty outstanding.
I think that might be one of the better bang for the bucks. I can go ahead and say that I've had more refined or more silky or more this or that. But there's also a little the longer you let it sit on your and let the aftertaste sit, the more there's a mineral note that comes in that's kind of nice too.
The pepper kind of fades. You get that pepper like
and there's
right
a
at
little
first.
bit of heat that comes around, just a little bit to say hi, and then walks away. It's kind of interesting, but this is one. Like on initial taste, if you're telling me this is under $40, this is probably one I'll go look for and toss on the shelf.
Yeah, won't be a bad thing to have in the bar.
Have you guys ever done a vessel tasting? In other words, you put this
The
in
same thing in every
this
vessel.
little glass, and then you put another one in something like this, and then another one in a tequila glass,
I got
another
a
one in a
Glencairn
snifter.
in there. You want me to go grab it?
No, I was just curious if that's something that you've ever.
We've
No,
not
but
done
that's
that,
a
but that
fun
would be
thing to
very
do.
interesting. Would you do that with spirits? Would you do it with wine? What would you
You
do?
can do it with both.
I think with beer too, because the thing about beer glasses, right? Everyone's got to have a different kind of beer glass for a different kind of beer.
Yeah,
I don't
so-
do that at my house, by the way.
So we were out the other night at a friend of ours was in from out of town, and we went out to Axelrad, and we all ordered the draft beer, and I ordered a particular IPA, and they decided that one came in one of the tulips.
Oh,
We
then you
want-
must have been a big IPA then.
Maybe I don't remember which one
The
it was.
tulips
now.
are usually
Yeah.
reserved for something
Right.
at 7% or higher.
Right.
That's,
So
that's when you'll see
here
that.
I'm holding the tulip. My buddy's over here with the big pint glass, and of course I'm done in like a minute and a half.
So let me explain. I know why that
I
happens.
changed up IPAs so that I would get a full bigger glass.
So some beers in general, like when you get a higher ABV beer, then places will do a short pour,
Right.
and they can't put a short pour in a pint glass,
Or it looks
or
like they
you
haven't
only
filled
get
it up.
half
Yeah.
of a pint
Sure,
glass.
Sure.
So they always use a tulip for that.
And sometimes we'll put something like that in a snifter.
Yeah, but you'll always get like if it's a high ABV, and that's like a lot of double IPAs and things like that. If
Or
it's
like a
7 or
big
above.
stout or something
Yeah,
like that,
sometimes you'll get that like that short pour, and I'm usually fine with that, even if it's expensive. It usually means it's a bigger body, bigger everything. Like if you order a bourbon barrel stout somewhere, you're almost always going to get a tulip.
right? Tulip, sure. Yeah, that makes
kind of
sense
thing.
because they don't want to pour as much because
Right.
of the strength of it. So
Yeah, so that's kind of common, and I've seen that too. But there's also something to be said. Like I was playing at what was the name of the place? Oh, the Sawyer Park Ice House, and they have big beers. You just go order a 24 ounces.
Good Lord.
see, now I don't usually do that, and I'll tell
And you
why.
know what? They poured me 24 ounces of Lone Pint.
Gotta love that. But here's why I don't usually do that, because I really, I know this goes against the grain of some people. I apologize. I really like my beer cold. And the bigger the beer, the warmer it will be by the time I get to the end, no matter how fast I drink it.
Generally speaking, there are beers that I like cold, but generally speaking, most of the beers I drink stand up very well when they're warm.
Sure, I understand.
So that's not
So
even
you're
an
not
issue
worried
for
about
me
that. I
generally.
know.
So.
I understand.
Plus, more. There are people that say more is less, and I've actually studied this concept, and I've come up with the fact that more actually is more.
I think you may be onto something.
It's true. No, more actually is
Brilliance.
more.
Yeah. And this is on the same show as Razorburn, so he's full of great wisdom
Take
today.
the good with the bad, right?
Yeah, full of great wisdom today. I'm going to recommend this tequila very highly. This
El
is
Mayor.
El Mayor, spelled like mayor, and it is 100% agave, and it checks out. I would love to see what Liliana thinks of
A
this.
little, that would be great
Yeah.
to see. But it's a tiny little research that I did on this is that it's made by the same parent company that makes Ezra Brooks.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And a lot of other stuff I didn't recognize.
I went in for seconds.
And I don't blame you. All right.
I still get buttery. Butterscotch, though, I think someone said butterscotch, and I think that's kind of a little closer where it goes.
I did, and maybe the buttery was leading me to that, but it kind of hit me like all of a sudden right in the center of the palate. It was like that's almost like a candy butter, and then butterscotch was the only thing I could think of. Candied butter does sound good,
Speaking
though, doesn't
of
it?
which,
I'm in.
I bet
I'm
this
in.
is good.
Can we
with-
fry that?
I bet this is good with vanilla ice
Thanks,
cream.
Paula Dean.
If we could fry candied butter, that would be a delicacy, wouldn't it?
Candied butter.
I'm in.
I'm going to think about that while we take a break. Drinking News is on the way. Plus, we are.
We're gonna start a booth for the rodeo coming
I
up.
think so. Yeah, drink candied butter dunked. We'll be right back with a little bit of drinking news and, according to Mark, some bubbles, which I'm very excited about.
Make your plans.
Welcome back. It is Smoking and Toasting, show number 307.
Halfway to 333, y'all.
Yuletide Wines with Marc Borel. Our program's all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. And, of course, today, a little more focus on wine as Marc is here with great stuff for the holidays. Now, I absolutely loved the first two wines. I'm particularly fond of that first one.
Yeah.
That first one was that was Ashes and Diamonds.
Ashes and Diamonds Cabernet Franc.
Wonderful.
They
But I
do
like
make
them both.
They do make a whole slew of French varietal style wines in
Right.
Napa County. In fact, the southern end of Napa Valley, which I think is just really stunning what they're doing, and I really love it. So,
Before we jump into this, tell me about Napa and the drought and fires and stuff in California. Is Napa in bad shape? Is everything okay? Is it somewhere in
it's
between?
Not near as bad as it was in 2017.
Okay.
There were in 2020 there was a good number of Napa producers who just didn't make red wine at all.
Right.
But I think we're starting to feel that effect now. But I think a good number of the wineries have had a really good year.
Good.
They think that 22 is a good year value wise, tasting wise, and so I'm anxious to see how that turns out. We're starting to get some 21s, but a lot of times. For bigger red wines, they need to sit a little longer, so we won't see those for a few years.
Yeah, but I was just interested because I read some stories early on when the wildfires were happening, especially that made me think, wow, I wonder how much of Napa is even going to be in to grow grapes.
There were back in 2017. There were a few wineries that didn't make it that had some issues, but fortunately, specifically in that time, a lot of the wine was already in barrel. It had already been picked, and so they didn't have to worry about smoke taint. It was a little different in 20.
Right.
So,
very good. All right, so talk about what you poured for us here. This is Bubbles.
this is Bubbles. This is Italian Bubbles. It's 100% Bracchetto from a region in Piedmont called Bracchetto d'Acqui.
And I don't know what Bracchetto is. It's a region?
Bracchetto is not only the region, but it's also the varietal.
So
Okay,
this,
gotcha.
like, forgive my ignorance if I sound like, a yokel saying this, but it smells a little bit like iced tea.
Oh, okay.
Like I get a little bit of almost.
Yeah,
tea
I know what
kinda-
you're saying. I know what
There's
you're saying. Yeah.
there's an aged component to it. I mean, it's
Right,
not an aged
almost-
wine, but it
it's
has
a fermented,
Yes,
slight fermented on the nose,
so almost.
which I think is what you're picking up on.
For me, I'm sort of getting a sour kind of.
Yeah, there's a little. It's because iced tea has a little bitterness to it, and that's maybe what I'm picking up on.
Oh my!
Now you're not going to get that on the
No,
the
you
palate.
sure aren't. Because I
Not
just
at
took
all.
a drink. Wow, this is
Oh.
very surprising.
Okay,
It's not. So this is not something that
that is boisterous.
I wanted to throw a wrench at it, man.
You certainly
and this is something different. So this Bracchetto d'Acqui is typically known in Piedmont as an effervescent style of rosé-ish, almost red wine that should be served ice cold, because it does have a little bit of bubbles to it, but it's
Right.
also slightly sweet. It has so they pick the grapes at a later time, and the juices concentrate in the berry.
And does that have a tendency to make it sweeter because there's more?
Yeah,
juice?
so think about
Juice-
like ice wine when they're harvesting
Right.
those grapes frozen.
This
Right.
is oddly, I think, too sweet, but I can't stop drinking it. And I will tell you that that tea leaf note. Now it's distinctly more tea leaf than it is iced tea, kind of now. On the retro hail, it kind of shows up a little bit to me.
Very interesting.
But this is something where on initial taste I'm like, that's too sweet, but I keep drinking it. I can't. Actually,
see.
matter
I
of
know
fact,
what you're saying.
Because
I'm going to need more research.
yes, sir. There is there's the acid component in it is it's not very acidic. I think the pH is quite low, but I think it's the really interesting that it's quite balanced. Yes, it's a little sweeter, but there's a fruit component there to it. There's an acid
It
component
doesn't.
there to it.
It doesn't linger in a sickly sweet way. It actually kind of cleans up really nice.
Well, it does remind me a bit of an ice wine or a dessert wine of some sort because of the sweetness.
Yeah.
The bubbles I think also can cut some of the sweet too, because the bubbles tend to make it spicy on the tongue a little bit.
Right, and Bracchetto is, it's again. I told you this wasn't champagne. It's not. It's the antithesis of champagne. but I wanted to bring something different for the holidays. I think this is a really cool, like, aperitif, like, into the night kind of. They have this. This is also really good in cocktails. We make a sangria with this.
Oh, I bet that's
I bet
amazing.
that is good.
and it's really, really tasty.
This I can see this too. After your your mincemeat pie, that kind of thing. I bet this goes amazing with that kind of weird, savory, sweet thing.
Yep. So this is, I think this would be, and one of the reasons I brought this is because not being a smoker, I think that this, from what I know and from what I can smell when I'm around cigar smokers, I would think that this might be really interesting with a cigar.
I bet this would go with something in the Connecticut range, like really, really nice.
The Perdomo Champagne or
Connecticut, those Aladino, any of those.
Because the sweetness isn't just overpoweringly sweet.
Short story.
There's a little. There's some earth to it. There's some body to it. There's some interesting notes to this that I think is really, really.
So
interesting.
this tastes boisterous and a little frivolous, but you're right. There's an earthiness to it that makes it not taste like it's trying to be commercially acceptable. I don't know what the word is. It's
unapologetic.
It's down to earth.
Yeah, no,
It's very down to
unapologetic is
earth
good.
doing what it
Without a
does.
doubt.
To me, this is almost like a wine equivalent of a barley wine. It's just a different thing, and if you like it, you like it.
And it's sort of like hashtag sorry not sorry.
yeah.
Yes.
It's like I am what I am, as Popeye used to
I
say.
really, really oddly like this.
Yeah, it really is good. Now, I will say this is the exact opposite
Without
of what
a
I
doubt.
usually look for in a sparkling wine. I usually look for very dry, very not sweet. I've even found, my wife actually brought home a couple of Prosecco's that were not so sweet that I really, really liked. But this one is definitely more sweet. I mean, you gotta give in to that.
Well, and it
from
says
the
so.
get-go.
If you're looking at Prosecco that says brewed on it, then you know what you're getting.
Right.
This one does say Dolce on the label.
It does say sweet.
So you know that this is going to be a little sweeter than you might expect. But it's absolutely completely different than anything I've brought
different
here
than
before.
anything I've ever had.
Really
And I
nice.
think it's festive for the holidays.
It
It's
is.
really-
It is
this
very festive.
This is why, I love to try new things. When you're like, okay, I've got something that might be that interesting. This is something I never, on paper, I never would have picked out. I never would have looked at that and gone, okay, I'm going to try that over a bunch of other things. But this, now that I have tried this, is
But
really
and not only
fun.
that, but this is just begging to be mixed with stuff. I think
Right.
this
I could see it in cocktails
gin and
for
a
sure.
little mint would be really delicious in this.
Yeah, that'd be very interesting.
Like I said, we make a sangria with this instead of fruit or fruit juice, we use fruit flavored. Like limoncello, we use orange cello, we use a little bit of grapefruit in there. Yeah.
Infused spirit, yeah.
So this is that it's a really fun thing. It gives it body, it gives it texture, it gives it a little.
It has an interesting mouthfeel too, because it tastes bigger and sweeter than it feels in the mouth, but the bubbles also add a little bit to that too, I think. So
And you're right, they're tiny. The Italians are calling this effervescent. They're not calling it sparkling at all. And those bubbles are so tiny, and
it's very tiny, but it's just enough to make it
Yeah.
fun.
Fun times.
Really cool.
Fun times. And I think it lines us up perfectly for the next segment on the program. It's a little thing we've all come to know and kind of sort of love called Drinking News.
Drinking news, drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news. Drinking news, drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news. A Florida man with one arm said he had a gator for a pet. When asked about his absent arm, he said,
A gator carried it into the swamp.
drinking news. Drinking news. Now it's time for drinking
Okay,
news.
this has been the theme of today's show. Just nothing lining up quite right. I should have played.
No, I just
Take
want to
my
know.
gator to the vet.
Yeah,
That
see,
sounded
there.
much like you.
Yeah, much. But if you remember, there was a specific reason for that because we had a story where
Right, we had that one story.
the gator carried it into the swamp. So that was the reason we had that. I just did not have it marked
Do
clearly.
we need to redo it? It's, a Florida man with one arm said he had a gator for a pet. When asked about his absent arm, he said,
I had to take my gator to the vet.
drinking news, drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news.
Cheers, y'all.
That had to be rowdy, huh?
By the way, we are working on, just so you know, we've been working on this. In fact, I think Mark did one of these for us when he was here last time. We're working on getting those on video. And Adam in the cloud, who does all the post-production on the show,
Adam's going
will
to add them into the
insert
show?
them. Yes, he will insert them in the appropriate place.
Adam
But
will
we just
add
haven't
'em.
sent him quite enough of them yet.
All right, so I got one chuckle. I'm happy.
Wow. Well, let me just remind
good
you
for
at
a
this
cheap
point,
laugh.
just in case, and cheap laughs are all we're going to get today, trust me. Just in case you are new to Drinking News, I will remind you that our news stories on Drinking News they are true. They actually happen somewhere, as to the best of our knowledge anyway. They're not from the Onion, in other words. They're not made up on purpose. They are news that we've collected from somewhere that seems to be a semi-reputable source, and they are sometimes, but not always, about drinking, but they're always probably best listened to and enjoyed when you've been drinking. And so here we go. Drinking News number 307, ladies and gentlemen.
I was just doing this whole glass shuffle.
I was watching
which
you.
one has the wine in it.
But yeah, I was going to say I'm able to tell which one has the wine, so it didn't work.
It's a pretty easy trick.
Am I the only one that brings glasses?
Yes.
Okay.
Occasionally,
no.
we
Some
have someone that
spirits guys
brings
who bring glasses,
like Glen Cairns.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, here in Houston, Texas,
Oh, this is gonna be good.
we used to have this guy on the local news who was somewhat of a wacky local celebrity.
Marvin Zindler.
He talked really loud.
Eyewitness News. Is that who you're
He
talking about?
wore these weird blue tinted glasses,
Slime and Ice Machine.
and his whole gig was going around town to various restaurants and grading them on their cleanliness and safety in the kitchen. He was particularly fond of checking out their ice dispensers. And when he found issues, which he often did, he would yell out,
Slime and the Ice Machine.
and in fact, he even had a little song that would play, if I remember correctly.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Slime and the Ice Machine jingle and the dancing ice cubes. I do remember seeing it somewhere.
Marvin Zindler.
You can look him up on
Eyewitness News.
You can look him up on YouTube. His name was Marvin Zindler, and the local news, quite frankly, has not been the same since he passed away.
They haven't been the same, or they haven't recovered from them.
Either is
I don't know which
either
one
is
it is.
particularly correct. Marvin Zindler, however, would be horrified by today's story on Drinking News. Today's story also poses the question: if you're from Chicago,
Would it give him razor burn?
It might. It might. Okay, so today's story also poses the question: if you're from Chicago, but you find yourself in Florida, and you wind up getting arrested there, does that make you a Florida man?
I think outside of Florida, it makes you a Florida man, but in Chicago or in Florida, it makes you a Chicago man.
Well, in today's story, we're just going to say a Florida man who was actually from Chicago was arrested at a beachside bar in St. Petersburg. He was on vacation and therefore was off duty. But back in Chicago, he apparently was a law enforcement officer, which makes this all the more puzzling, as it's pretty clear he should have known that he was breaking the law. At around 12:30 in the morning on December 5th, the bar was hopping. Customers were sipping Mai Tais and other tropical drinks and even remarking about how great everything tasted. An employee of the bar was preparing a round of drinks when he went to the ice machine to discover 30-year-old Henry Capuche, a vacationing cop from Chicago, doing something that is definitely not condoned by the Illinois or even the Florida police handbooks.
Oh, no.
Dude was going full R. Kelly on the ice machine. Yep. Off-duty cop was taking a whiz right into the ice machine.
Oh, no.
The employee yelled at him to stop, at which time, Marvin Zindler's rolling over in his grave right now.
The problem is, once you've started, there's no stopping.
Right.
Like, if you're a guy,
Right.
we all know this, right? There's like,
And think about this.
there's no stopping. But on top of that, like, you've ruined the ice when you're, like, even before you started.
Oh,
like,
for sure.
No one wants
for
that
sure.
ice.
And think about this. Most commercial ice machines, the place where you open it up to get, to scoop out the ice is at about like chest level, which means in order to pee in it, you have to climb up on a stool or a chair or something.
Or he was arcing the stream.
Well,
we
that
all
could have
know
been
what
as
that
well.
is.
He could have been as well.
Come on, we all know when you're going for distance, not for speed,
Yeah.
right?
The employee who was headed for the ice machine yelled at the man to stop, at which time Henry Capuche turned toward him in midstream, causing the employee to have to duck and cover. He reports that the urinator cursed at him. Imagine that, right?
He does not wear tights.
And then came over and shoved him aggressively several times. A security guard was called in, and Capuche resisted him as well. It's not clear if he'd put his junk away by then or if it was still just flopping out everywhere during the altercation. Police arrived to
wagging the dog, so to speak.
Police arrived to find Capuche and his girlfriend sitting on the sand outside the bar, still trying to scuffle with the guard and eventually with the officers themselves. He was arrested for battery and disorderly conduct and whisked away to a holding cell. This leaves me with a couple of thoughts.
There are so many questions. What do you mean?
Number one, if you're at a Florida beach bar and your drink tastes kind of funny, send it back and order a beer. Number two, I'm going to say that no matter where you are actually from, there is apparently something weird that happens when you go to Florida that, if you're not careful, can make you at least an honorary Florida man. And finally, Marvin Zindler, wherever you are, I wish you were still with us today. I miss your blue glasses, your full head of white hair, and how you made the news entertaining.
Do you remember all
every time you were on.
the like face tucks and
Oh yeah.
stuff
And
that he
the
had?
longer he was
pretty
on, the
bizarre
crazier
looking.
the face started to look. But most of all, Marvin, I would love to hear the new song that you would have to write and play for Pee in the Ice Machine. Maybe Ian can come up with something on the ukulele for us. I think that kind of worked.
Drinking news, drinking news. It's time for drinking news.
Cheers, y'all.
Slime in the ice machine.
How long's it been since you thought of that?
It's been
and anyone
years.
who lived here in Houston knows what that's about.
But it was a staple. Like
Yeah.
I used to actually watch the news just to see him say slime in the
and
ice
you know
machine.
that people did that.
And
That's
who
one
was
of
the other guy that always got really drunk and went out and watched local bands? Because we met him a few times. He was funny.
I know who you're talking about, but I don't remember.
Dude, that guy
man.
was an interesting cat because he had these huge bags under his eyes at all times. Even when he was on the news, like, how did you get that job, bro?
Love it.
I mean, he was living his job.
living the dream.
He was doing
That's what he
it.
was doing. Wow. All right, I'm going to have a little more of this as we move forward here on the show. Mark, you mentioned that you guys obviously are booked for this year, but thinking in advance for next year for other things that are special, you guys have more than one party room that you can
There's
that
several.
You can book?
So
Yeah.
I can accommodate a group of 8 or 10. I can accommodate a group of 80. So
Nice.
there's several different rooms that we can work with.
Nice. And do you do? Is it regular menu when you do that, or is it a special
So if
or
you
off menu?
yeah, if you have more than a handful of people, we're going to require that you have a set menu. But
Right.
we have on the website there are 3 sample set menus.
All right, so
and
you can
different
go and
prices.
look and see what
you
yeah,
can
right.
take a look at what that might be.
Can you imagine them limiting your choices to only being this amazing thing or that amazing thing or the other amazing thing?
Right, I know. The food is just so.
We're going to make sure you have an amazing time.
I mean,
The food is really just
Yeah.
so incredible.
I mean, it's not like going to your buddy's wedding where you get the dry steak or the dry chicken.
right, exactly. Oh man, but my favorite thing on your menu is the mixed grill.
Oh, yeah.
That's where you get to sample all these
So
different
I
kinds of
broke
game.
out
That's a
of
favorite.
ordering that the last time I was there. I broke out of ordering that and ordered something else. And I feel like I've done the mixed grill so many times that I have to actually now expand and go around the menu a little
I
bit. That mixed
understand,
grill
I
is
understand.
amazing.
But
though.
yeah, it is because you get to taste the elk and you get to taste
Yeah.
There's usually
the wild-
venison
yeah.
or duck.
Yeah, 'cause it
or,
changes, right?
Wild boar.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of stuff.
I
in
actually
there.
felt a little like Ted Nugent while I was eating it. You know, almost as if I'd gone out with an arrow and shot it myself.
Little wang tang sweet.
Sweet elk.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
This show's
gosh.
getting weird. We haven't even talked about Nick Cage.
I know, but we can do that when we come back. We'll do it in the final segment. So we did go way off the rails on Nick Cage last show. It was good. It was good. All right, we will take a break and be back for our final goodbyes. Marc Borel in the studio, great wines in the studio. This is Smoking and Toasting. We'll be right back.
I know how to love, and I know
Welcome back to Smoking and Toasting, our program all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. My name is
love those
Cruz.
things.
My co-host is Ian Barry. Behind the wheels of steel, Jong Lee, and Adam in the cloud, our producer, taking care of everything in post-production. Our
up, Adam?
guest is, Adam, we miss you. Adam's going to be here, actually, next week, I think. So I don't know if he'll be here on the show, but he'll be in town, so we got to arrange for a little drinking somewhere. That'll be fun. Anyway, our special guest is our wine expert for Smoking and Toasting, Mr. Marc Borel, who's
guy's
brought in some
amazing.
fabulous stuff, and we appreciate it. Next week's show, Ian, will be our last one. We're not going to do a show the week after Christmas. We'll take that week off. But we will do one for next week, and I'm just thinking that will be our Christmas show. So I was thinking maybe both of us just bring in stuff we like and drink it. Like,
I'm down with that.
like
We also
less-
have
less
some
formal.
video that we need to put out from
Oh, you're right.
from
From your
Lone Pine.
From your Lone Pine. So we'll put that in next week's show,
That's gotta be out
and
there.
and maybe we'll talk about it off air. But
That's really fun, by the way.
But I think that what we might do is just you bring in stuff you like, I'll bring in stuff I like, and we'll tradesy. You know, we'll go here, try this.
I'm down with that.
That sound fun?
Yeah,
Okay, let's do it. I'll bring a bunch of IPA
it's
stuff.
a trade show.
You bring a bunch of barley wines.
Great, I'll be there.
Mark, you're welcome to come. It's just our Christmas show, so we'll give gifts of.
You know what
here's
time we'll
something
be
I
here.
really
So if you feel like just
Yeah, right.
if you feel
Perhaps
like
I
just
won't show up
stopping by,
early.
go, what the heck's going on?
And if you show up, we could be like the three wise men. Otherwise, we'll just be the two dudes.
It's our Christmas show. You
Yeah.
don't have to wear pants or nothing.
Right, exactly.
Eat all.
I don't know what
So,
that means.
Anyway, we'll look forward to that. And yes, you're absolutely welcome to come. We'll share our frankincense and myrrh with you, or
A lack of sense of
maybe
mirth.
just some beers and spirits.
Two
So-
of the 100 things that I love.
Okay, fair enough. Listen, thank you so much. These were delicious. They were fascinating, and these are all on the menu at the Rainbow Lodge.
Can we get a good picture of this table, like the wine glass wreckage
The-
that we've made of it? I
Oh, yeah.
love this. This
'Cause
is
they're all over
this
the
is the
place,
sign
yeah.
of something we succeeded at.
Yeah, John, maybe you can pick one of those up. And, yeah. That's what it looks like right there. That's good. That's very good.
There it goes.
Love it, love it, love it. I'm still swirling this one, which means I'm going to drink more.
need to fill
No,
mine.
seriously, really delicious stuff. Great fun, and thank you so much. Always interesting and fun. I always get a new favorite every time you're on the show, which is awesome. And all,
Happy
by
to
the
do
way,
it.
on the menu at the Rainbow Lodge. And from what I understand, you could also get any of these to go from
That's
Rainbow
right.
Lodge because they might be a little hard to find at retail.
Yeah, a lot
but
of
if
the, a
you're
lot
in
of the
Houston.
stuff that we have on the list is not available at retail. Now you might find something at like the Wine Merchant or one of the smaller boutique shops, but for the most part, a good number of the wines we have just aren't available. And I do that for a couple of reasons. First of all, I can't compete with HEB or Specs. I'm not buying truckloads of wine. Number two, I'd really like for you to come and see me. I'd really love for you to come and hang out and try something fun.
different.
Yeah.
So I love that the fact that like your curated wine cellar is your palate telling you this is what's good.
Yeah.
And this is what I like, and it doesn't have to be a brand name. It doesn't have to be Franzia. Oh, sorry. No,
Well, I
I'm
was
I'm
just about to
joking
say
about
that there's a lot of brand names that we do carry for that reason.
Yeah.
We happen
But not that
to,
one.
We happen not to carry friends. Yeah.
You don't have. Do you have a nice like vintage of Little Red Truck? No, I'm just that's ridiculous. But no, I mean I think that's really cool though because everything you try when you go there is going to be something unique and something you have handpicked, and I think that's amazing.
And I just want to say, you can't totally diss Little Red Truck, because when you're at Walgreens at 1:30 in the morning, you know what I'm saying?
You're
buying a
pushes
bag
the
of,
button.
You're buying a bag of cashews.
Pushes a button.
You know.
That's all I'm trying to say. Well, Mark, we so appreciate you,
Thank you.
expanding our minds and our palates here on wine, and it's always so much fun when you're here. And of course, you're welcome to come back and hang out in next week's Christmas show if you want to. I totally seriously mean it. So
Thank you.
So Ian, start thinking what you want to bring in. What do you want to try to impress me with? And I'll think of what I want to try and impress you with. How about that?
All right.
All right. Sounds like a lot of fun.
I mean, I got some black cherry mead, and I've got
That's exactly what I was hoping for.
this special bottle of barrel aged
of barrel aged rum.
Malort.
Oh, my Lord. Okay, good. We'll be looking forward to that. Folks, thanks for hanging with us all year. It has been super fun. Next week's show, number 308, will be our final one for 2022, and then we'll bask in the warmth and excitement of a new year. So thank you, Mark, again.
Cheers. Thank you.
And cheers, y'all.